Hey everybody, so tonight is going to be a very casual stream, not a lot going on. All I'm really going to be doing is sewing on a pair of footy pajamas they're going to be leggings. They're going to be like about knee high when they're all done, with footies on them. So I actually cut the fabric out, all the way back in February, and I've been meaning to work on these. It was just, like, super cold in February, and I wanted warm feet, and so I started them, and then life has happened. So, it's going to be pretty... Let's see, there, you guys can see I'm not even bothering with a alternate camera, just going to work on these and chat. Today has been busy, which is funny. It wasn't supposed to be busy today. It was supposed to be a nice, chill Sunday, but turned into, oh, I need to go to the store and pick up some stuff for my upcoming trip, and oh, the roommate wants to come with to buy groceries because he's trying to stock up before I leave, because he can't drive. And, while my partner will be here and my partner can drive, my partner also has been working 40 hours a week, and so, of course, roommate doesn't want to ask him to take them if they can avoid it. Plus, they don't really like going to the grocery store with my partner because my partner is very, my partner makes me look like I'm not scatterbrained. And so, going to the store with them is kind of an endurance trial on whether or not you'll be able to keep up with the fact that they keep forgetting that they need to get X thing from Y place and Z thing from, So, it ends up with them kind of jumping from place to place to place in the store, which roommate has bad anxiety. I mean, so do I, so does my partner. But it really sets his off pretty badly. Sorry, I'm not doing a very good job of showing you what I'm working on now, am I? But, so, ended up taking them, and then the twins wanted to go to the Asian food market because my spouse had promised that he would take them, but because he had a tooth extraction on Thursday, he's still not quite up for doing much of anything due to pain, and so did not feel up for taking them, so they asked if I could take them. And running around stores with the twins is always pretty interesting because they are very bad at making decisions on what they want, what they need, so they will double back, triple back, quadruple back, etc., etc. And then once I got all of that done and finally got home, I thought, okay, I can finally relax, only to realize fairly late in the evening that, oh crud, I have not gotten my groceries for the 2 days that I'm going to be here before I fly out to California for my surgery. So, cue me scrambling to go to the late night grocery store that was still open, and grabbing, it turned out to be 2 salads and some dried fruit and things like that, and some low sodium beef stock, because while I was at the Asian market, I did have the presence of mind to get a few things like seaweed and some spinach noodles and other things that I can use to make soup, because I'm not only supposed to be watching my calories for the next however long until my surgery, but I'm also supposed to be watching my sodium intake per my surgeon. He would like me to... How did I manage that? Okay, good, it came out. He would like me to go on a low sodium diet for a little bit before the surgery and then maintain it for, I think he said, 2 weeks after, just to promote healing and prevent there being a lot of water retention, things like that. So I'm doing that. He says to shoot for under 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day, which not too hard except when you're eating things like soups, because most of the broths and stocks you don't make yourself have a ton of salt added to them. Same with a lot of frozen foods too. They add the salt as a preservative along with the freezing. Okay, so this, you can thankfully actually see the thread I'm using. How I got this fabric was I took a blanket, just one of the cheap fleece blankets you see at Walmart every winter, and I laid it on the floor and I traced the shape of my foot on it. And then I cut that out, and then I put the fabric over the top of my foot and traced what that was too. And then cut that out, and then I wrapped the fabric around my leg and traced that, or cut just roughly that size. And now I have, oh, and I also unthreaded the thread that was on the edges for the finishing, and that's what I'm actually sewing it with. So it's got this bright pink thread. And I've mostly been using the blanket stitch because for me it's a pretty nice solid stitch. And right now I'm just finishing off this tiny little gap that was left at the corner of one foot. And what I'm doing to finish that off is I am putting the needle through the fabric on both sides. Then I take my yarn, or my thread, and wrap it around 3 times before I pull all the way through, and it makes this nice tight knot that is very good for holding things in place. Okay. So that's done. And everything's being stitched together from the inside out. Yes, I just stabbed my needle, which is a fairly blunt needle. It's one that I use for denim. So it's pretty sturdy and it's not very sharp. Doesn't need to be for this particular task. This is being sewn together inside out. These seams that you're seeing will be on the inside, so they'll be invisible when I finish this. I've actually got this is just one of the 2. I haven't even started on the other, so I've actually got that sitting off to the side, the pieces that are cut out, and I can show you the non-sewn together pieces here in just a couple. Surgery is very close now. It's happening on the 22nd. Today's the 15th, so that's 7 days away. Not sure what time of day it's going to happen. I think I will find that out at my appointment that is this coming Thursday. My flight is this coming Wednesday. Normally I would do a stream on Thursday, but since I don't know how the friend I'll be staying with feels about it, they say they're fine with it, but I just feel so awkward having a camera on in someone else's house. If I can find a good blank wall, yeah, I'll still stream. But my plan right now is to stream Wednesday before I leave, which my flight is at 6 a.m., which means I need to be there at 4 a.m., which means I'll have to do the stream at like 1, 2 in the morning on Wednesday, which actually is when I'm doing the stream right now. Normally I just do it at 1 to 2 in the morning. Hello, thank you for the follow, Zia. Okay, so let me grab those pieces of fabric and show you. So this is one of the tops of the foot. It is a not very tight triangle, which is fine. It doesn't need to be. This is a I want the worms. So this is the bottom of a foot. Looks roughly like the sole of a shoe or an insert for a sole. The leg is kind of a rough rectangle. It's bigger at one end than the other because, well, of the way that human legs are shaped. The calf is larger than the ankle area, and so you end up having to use more fabric for one of those versus the other. The thing I'm having a problem with right now, I'm trying to sew this one that I'm working on right now together from the top of the leg down to meet this, because I want to make certain there's a part of this that's a bit wider than the rest, specifically to make room for the calf, because I have some fairly large calves. Let's phrase it that way. But this is, because of the way that it's being put together, I'm just trying to stitch it so that that larger bit of fabric ends up right at the calf. So I managed to forget my needles because I'm going to need to try this on. I'm going to swap this over to the camera. I'm going to leave the mic going this time, but I'm going to swap the camera over, and I had to put something on the camera just so I could update. I took some photos of some items that are going to be going up for sale in my Etsy shop, which will be coming back online on December 1st. I've had it on hiatus since September, sometime in September, because I was trying to get ready, do a revamp of the shop. So I took some product photos with my new, I've had it over a year, just never got it out of the packaging until yesterday, light box. I'm going to swap over to one of those real quick while I run and get the I can word, I promise, the safety pins. So one moment. Enjoy this tiny little picture of a pumpkin. I'm sure that it's beautiful. Okay. Let's see, where did I put the safety pins? They're over. If anyone wants to see it, I could also real quick show how I cut down the size of the image. I mean, it's fairly simple. I use the I use the cropping tool and just real quick cut things down. Hold on, I'm just double checking the fit. But this is going to be very cozy. And right there is the area that I want to ensure gets seamed together. So let me just grab a... Why did I never think to get the safety pins out of here? Why did I never think to have them at my desk where I needed them? Well, this is not really my desk, but anyway. Come on. How do I open this? Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's what they meant by curved safety pin. That's weird. Un momento. Trying to do this without managing to stab myself with a pen. Not the best. Likely. Okay. There we go. Okay. I have the bits that are important pinned in place. Put that there. move back into my seat. Pop that up. I might as well real quick show you guys how I cut down the image size. I'm going to put the lid back on. Please. There we go. Right. Okay. We'll see if this will still show. So we go here to the crop and rotate tool, and then all I do is I try to drag it down to give you roughly the same amount of white space at any point. And then in my case, I just hit save, because I don't want to save a copy, I just want to save it. There we go. Okay, now you see. Ta-da! Okay. There's my needle. Yeah, it's been crazy lately for me. Trying to make certain everything's done and that my household isn't going to fall apart in the 2 weeks, actually slightly under 2 weeks, that I'll be gone. My spouse is very morose and telling me over and over how much he's going to miss me, which is very sweet, but he's also like freaking out about the surgery, and I'm like, could you not? Like, I'm the one who's going under the knife. Why are you the one freaking out? I'm not freaked out. You should hold off on freaking out until I tell you there's a reason to freak out. Okay. Then again, sorry, putting that down so you guys can see. This, by the way, is the point where I put that safety pin. So I'm just having to make certain that my fabric matches up to that. There are some things that are potentially a problem right now, but they are not a problem enough to prevent me having my surgery. So we're kind of going, okay, we will worry about this when I get back. But I did have to have, I was told it would be an ECG, which my brain went, oh, it's the big brother of an EKG. Okay, nothing to worry about. I show up at the hospital Friday, and first they had said, come to the hospital to have it done. I go to the hospital, I go to the front desk and say, hey, I have this procedure being done, and they're like, oh, you came to the wrong hospital. You need to go to this hospital that's a block away, but specifically has this group in it. Okay, well, I'm already running a bit late, so let me scramble over there. Get there. And they say, and I go and say, and looking at the board that says, here's where X places are. And somebody says, oh, are you having something done? And I say, yes, I'm getting an ECG. And they say, oh, okay, you need to go to this floor. So I go to that floor with them, because they happen to be going to the same floor, which was nice. That was handy, at least. And I go to the front desk, and they're like, no, you need to go down to the basement, because you're having an echocardiogram. And I'm like, wait. I thought it was just another EKG. They did that in my doctor's office, and they're like, no, you're getting an echocardiogram, which apparently is an ultrasound of your heart. Now, I have had plenty of ultrasounds. I am well aware of what an ultrasound entails. I am not, of course, freaked out by this, but finding out that now I have to go down to the basement when I've already gone to X, Y, and Z places, and am late. Keep that in mind. Late is a big one with me. I freak out when I'm late. Anyhow, so I go down. They do the usual, take my blood pressure, which was, for me, was high. Okay. But it wasn't high enough that anyone would worry, because it was within the bounds of normal. It was 136 over 73. For me, I very rarely am anywhere above 125. But again, I was late, so I was a little freaked out, so my heart rate was, or my blood pressure was up. Anyhow, they did the echocardiogram. They said they would let my doctor know and I would get results within a week. I informed them, okay, but in a week I'm going to be in California. And they said, well, as long as your doctor lets you know. Okay. So, unless something absolutely horrific shows up, not worried. Again, my stance is I don't worry until I know there's something worth worrying about, and at the moment, the cardiologist that I saw is pretty sure that it's just untreated sleep apnea, and all I have to do is get a sleep study and get a CPAP, and I'll be fine. We've already got a spare CPAP, so I'm not too worried about that, because my partner's sleep apnea is bad enough that after we'd already bought the CPAP, they informed him, oh, you actually need a BPAP. So, fine. Yes, things do appear to be going well for the moment. Apparently the gastroenterologist wants to see me about my gallstones again because he has suddenly decided that he is actually concerned about those, go figure, after having informed me previously, oh, nothing to worry about, we're not going to remove your gallbladder. So I might have to get that out, but again, it's an outpatient surgery, I'm not that worried. The only thing that I'm really worried about at this point is either, one, the bill from the hospital for the surgery, which I have to pay for in advance, which seems like a really annoying thing to me. Let me phrase it that way. I was about to use some four-letter words. But I have to pay for that in advance. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I had... Oh, yeah. I turned on 10-minute follower mode because of the whole mess with Twitch back in September, which I actually took the month off of streaming because of that, and I'd forgotten that was still into place. I apologize. I don't think that I'm going to need to turn that off anytime soon because people are still getting hate rated, and I do use... Oh, okay. So, what happened with Twitch was in late August, early September, the Twitch instituted some new tags that you could add to your blog, to your stream, including the LGBTQIA tag, the transgender tag, and ones for people who are black and Asian, etc. So different racial tags. People, of course, have been asking about this, or asking for this, for a long time. This was a really exciting thing for creators who are in the queer spectrum somewhere, or people who are not white. Let me just phrase it that way. Because they wanted a way to mark out that, hey, if these are things that are going to interest you, if these are issues that you are concerned by, here's how you can see that I am going to talk about these issues. Good thing. Important. But, yes, exactly. You can see how this would go wrong. The problem was that Twitch, along with instituting those tags, did not institute ways to prevent bot attacks. And so, some individuals decided that they were going to create bots and do hate raids, where they would raid the channel of a streamer who was using, say, the black tag or the LGBT tag, and would just fill their channel's chat with nothing but horrific, hateful messages, death threats, racial slurs, homophobic slurs, transphobic slurs, all of this awful stuff. And Twitch's response was, well, just ban them. Well, I was a mod for a stream that happened to get hit by one of those hate raids. And absolutely, you can ban them. But when you're getting hit by a bot that is literally generating new names and sending messages, and you literally have over 200 new messages from brand new names, each one, and you have to ban each one individually. You couldn't mass ban. They literally, these streamers had to literally have teams of 20 to 30 mods just to get all of them. And, you know, they couldn't do anything during those bits, because if anyone asked them a question, if anyone needed to or wanted to share something with them, they couldn't. They couldn't see it over all of these horrific slurs and death threats that were being shared, or doxing. A lot of these bots would also dox if the person who created them could get the name of, or could get the, you know, actual name of the streamer. They would then dox them too. And Twitch's response was still just, oh, just ban them when that happens, with no actual protections being made. And so people were going and having to create lists of the names of all of these bots. And I mean, it was over 1,000 long the last time I looked at that list. And of course, they had to spread it to all of the streamers. And then somebody had to create a mod that you could attach to your Twitch to auto-ban those names. But you could only do batch bans of so many at a time. And this went on for at least through the end of September. I think it's still happening, but not as much, because people then started implementing the 10-minute follow mode. You had to have been a follower for 10 minutes before you could chat. People started implementing, you can only be a follower, or you can only chat if you have verified your account with a phone number or something similar. And now Twitch did, at the end of September, okay? At the end of September, Twitch took 2 of the people that they'd found were behind some of the hate raids to court. And I don't know how that's turning out. I have not seen as much of it as I should have. Should have been looking into it more. But they took them to court for online harassment. And so I'm hoping that the book will really be thrown at these 2, and that they will either go to prison or have to pay just scads of money, and that it will prevent others from doing the same thing, because they'll go, oh, okay, I could actually get punished for this. But we'll see. That remains to be seen, but I took off streaming until the start of October. Exactly. I'd like to see an example made of them. And I'm sure that sounds horrible to most people, because, I mean, I know that I come across as a very sweet, very forgiving, very friendly person. I am all of those things. However, I am also very much the big brother and the papa bear, and I will go to bat for my friends who are streamers, especially those who are from marginalized groups. You know, it's just, I'm from a marginalized group, but I'm also pretty well off given the situation. I mean, I'm lower middle class, possibly even middle class, if it exists anymore. I work in the tech industry, so I make decent money. I'm well above well above minimum wage. I'm at least making, well, I was when I was working. I'm currently out of work, but that should be fixed up once I have my surgery. I've got some good prospects. I've still been applying for jobs and just haven't found any. I just haven't been applying for the ones that are sure bet ones, because one of those I can't apply for until after December 1st. Because When I first lost my job back in August, I applied. They were one of the first places I applied to. And they said, okay, after the interview, it's going to be a few days. I had also applied for another company. The other company was actually my previous company, because I didn't get fired. I got laid off, so there was no reason for me to not go back to work at that company. But I had been told that there was a very good chance I would be getting hired back by my old company. I let the bank know, okay, give me until X date so I can hear back from that job or that company, and if they say yes, then I'll just, not take the job with you. If they say no, then I'll go ahead and, continue the application process with you, because I did great in the first interview. They were looking forward to a second interview. Well, they didn't call me on Monday to let me know whether or not I'd been hired or if they wanted me back for a second interview. So Tuesday morning, when the old job called me and said, yes, we're all set to hire you again, I went, great, okay. Then Monday, then I called back the person from the bank, and I said, hey, they called me, and they are like, we're all set to give you another interview. And I said, I actually just accepted the job for my old company again, so I'll be going back to work for them. And they're like, okay, if that doesn't work out, then contact us in December. You'll be eligible to be re-interviewed at that point. And I said, okay. Not 5 minutes after I got off the phone with the bank, I got a call from my previous employer, and they said, we screwed up, and we can't hire you because you were a direct worker, and we're hiring back for contractors. And there is a clause that says if you were a direct worker, we can't rehire you as a contractor for a full year. So I had just turned down the opportunity to continue with the application process for a job that would have been a pretty good fit for me. I'd worked in a bank before. I have a lot of experience working in multiple environments. But because of that, I was not eligible for rehire with the first one, and I'm not eligible to continue the application with the bank until December. The other place that would be a shoo-in if the bank doesn't work, because that's where I'm going to try, is the same place where my partner works. And the only reason why I don't want to work there is there's a chance we would be put on the same team. Now, my partner is very good at his job, and has been trying to get a position as a trainer at his job for a very long time. When I started working at the bank that I used to work at, it was the call center for the bank. Less than a month after hitting the call floor, I got put in a position as a floor walker, what they would call assistant managerial support, or floor support staff. Basically, your job is to go and help other agents that are struggling, which my partner had been doing at his job, and then they took it away from him because his attendance was bad. The fact that less than a month after starting my job, they put me in that position really rankled for him. And when I moved to a different company shortly after that and went into actually the tech support field, about 3-4 months after I started there, I got put into a similar position again. And again, my partner, who has been just a basic agent ever since they took it away over his attendance, still had not been re-promoted to that position. And so seeing me not only be promoted once, but twice, to effectively the position he wanted, even in a different company, in a different field, it caused some tension. So I would kind of like to avoid working for the same company that my partner works for, doing the same thing. Because if I do, and I once again get promoted, there would be a good chance it would cause a lot of tension. Because, if I got promoted within a few months, while my partner's been there for several years, and was actually removed from that position, it would cause some tension. It might well result in my partner quitting the job. So, yeah, that's why I really don't want to go work at that company, even though I would make really good money. And I would be very good at the job. For one, the job pays commission, and it would suck. But I'm very good at, I don't want to say I'm good at manipulating people so much as I'm very good at reading people. And if I can read people, I can figure out what needs to be done to get them what they want while still meeting my goals. So, yeah, I guess it would be manipulating people. I mean, at least I don't do it maliciously. But anyway, yeah, it would probably create some tension. It might cause my partner to quit the job. And, the only reason we're doing okay right now is because I qualify for unemployment, and we're also, because we have kids, getting the child care credit, and so it's allowing us to make it by. And of course, my partner gets commission once per month and makes the full commission pretty much every single time. So, despite the frustration my partner has with their job, they're good at it. I will never deny them that. They are very good at what they do. They're just really, really bad at that whole attendance thing, and it keeps costing them. They've multiple times been up for promotion at this job and at their previous ones, and every single time that they've been turned down for it, it has been because of their attendance. And I've multiple times explained to them that, if you fix your attendance, you'll start getting promoted. But what do I know? I just get promoted right and left. Then again, I also worked for a couple weeks with walking pneumonia before, finally taking a day off because I was sick. And then the company threw me away because they could pay people in Costa Rica, like 7 times less than what they were paying me. So, c'est la vie. Shows you don't bother with being loyal to the company. The company is definitely not going to be loyal to you. But, yeah, that's the backup plan, though, is the job where my partner works. If the job with the bank falls through, if the job with the bank works, great, I'll have that job, and I'll be making just a touch under what I was making at my previous job, but with, of course, opportunity for advancement. And I'll be working from home still, which is definitely something I'm going to insist on. My roommate is disabled. I've got a roommate as well as my partner, and my roommate is disabled. Getting sick could very well be the end of it for him. So, working from home is just a requirement for me. I will not work at a job where I'm back in the office until the pandemic is controlled. We're not going to say over, because, yeah, especially not where I live. But the pandemic being controlled, the majority of people vaccinated. If I do go back to the office, I'm going to insist I will only go somewhere where vaccination mandates are required for all workers. Well, no. I'm not going to say for all workers, because I do have a friend who works in a position where, if it weren't for the fact he is getting vaccinated because it is required for all workers. But there is really no reason for him to be required to, because his job, he works with no other person, and he works outside and is never around other people. He's a landscaper, and he doesn't handle any of the paperwork or the in-office stuff. His job does not ever require him to come into contact with any other worker. So in situations like that, I understand why it's kind of annoying that people are saying, no, you have to be vaccinated because you work here. I think people should get vaccinated anyway because, pandemic. But this particular friend has health issues that actually make him get really, really sick from vaccines. He gets sick from the flu shot really badly every year if he takes it, So I get it. I really do. I'm still pushing him to get vaccinated, but but no, if I'm going to be working in an office environment, then I'm going to insist, everybody at that office needs to be vaccinated, just par for the course. My big hope is that this will be something of an awakening for the corporate world, where they will see that, okay, we really need to stop forcing people to come into work sick, because we managed to kill off a lot of our workforce by doing that. People say, you'll see these signs on businesses, nobody wants to work anymore. Well, one, a lot of those businesses aren't paying people a living wage. And so no, nobody wants to go and flip burgers at McDonald's and be screamed at and potentially get COVID for minimum wage. I don't blame them. I just don't. Not when you could go and get a job at... There's a call center in our town. They will hire you with no training, no skills, no job experience. You don't even have to have a GED or a diploma. They'll hire you. They don't care if you can't read, as long as you're willing to sit in the seat and take calls and be screamed at. And they're going to pay you at least $12 an hour for that. So why would you bust your ass working at McDonald's? Or, well, McDonald's now pays better than minimum wage, but, before they changed that. Why would you bust your ass working at Taco Bell, getting screamed at, potentially being robbed, might get shot by somebody who's mad that their burrito didn't have enough cheese, when you can go work in a nice office where you're sitting all day and you're in air conditioning and you don't come home smelling like burritos, and get paid a lot more. So no, I do not blame any of these employees who are telling their boss, I'm not coming back unless you're going to pay me what I'm worth. And I have no sympathy for these businesses that are posting the nobody wants to work sign, because one, they're not paying people what they need to be paying them to get them to do the work. And two, the business has already killed off a lot of their workers because they refused to force people to wear masks. They refused to let people stay home if they were sick. And so a lot of their workers didn't come back because they didn't survive. And yeah, just so it's not that nobody wants to work. It's that there's more jobs than there are people at the moment. And more people have realized that they deserve better than what they've been getting for ages. Sorry, probably didn't expect to hear a anti-capitalist rant. Well, you might, depending on where I know you from, you might know me well enough to know that that was probably going to happen. It's either that or I'm going to rant about animal agriculture and how people are really dumb about how they think that it's so abusive and cruel. Some of it is. Battery farms. Terrible. But, those are the big things I rant about. Oh, well, okay. Then let this be a good lesson on what it's like to listen to me. I rant a lot about wildlife, the environment, the climate, vaccinations, capitalism, racism, gender issues, the medical industry, just things that really need to be dealt with in my country. I don't know what country you're in, so. But and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be like anarchy. No, I believe in what they call malicious compliance, which is where you follow a rule in such a way that it makes it so inconvenient for the person who instituted that rule that they change the rule. But I also believe in direct action. I believe in strikes. I am pro-union. I am pro-worker. I'm even pro-soldier and pro-veteran, though I am not pro-military. Because I believe that if a person goes out of their way to join the military, to protect our country, to protect ideals that they have been raised on, then that person needs to be treated with respect, with dignity, and should be cared for if they get injured or sick because of what they did in the service of the country. So, yeah, I am very anti-military, especially given how predatory the U.S. military is. Going into inner city schools where these kids know that they're never going to have a chance at college and saying, hey, if you join up and spend 4 years in the military and, do what we tell you to, we'll pay for your college. And we'll take care of you. You'll get paid money and you'll have a place to live so you can save up that money while you're in the military. And when you get out, you should have enough money saved up you can buy your first house. And we'll pay for your college. If I were a kid in a school, say an inner city school or a small rural school, they do it in both, and I knew that my grades weren't really good enough to get a scholarship, that I probably was not going to just find a good job right out of school, that I was going to have to work minimum wage jobs and be treated like crap. And I was told my whole life, oh, you have to go to college to get somewhere. But the only way I was going to get to college was by taking out a loan that I could never afford to pay back. And I would be in debt the rest of my life, which, by the way, I probably will be, because while I did get scholarships, they only covered so much. But if I were in that situation, then yeah, the military probably would have looked pretty good to me too. And they do this on purpose. The military really does. Oh, here we go on another rant. They go in and they look for kids who are smart. That's why they make you take the ASVAB, is to see how smart you are. It's legal because it helps out the people in charge. The ones making the rules are the ones who this benefits. So it's legal for the military to come into a school and give the kids the ASVAB test, which, yeah, you can actually opt out of it, but what high schooler is going to choose to instead take a class when instead they can sit and take a test that's literally multiple choice and get you out of school or get you out of classes for 2-3 days. And when you're not taking the test, you get to sit in the cafeteria and joke around with your friends, have a soda, maybe hit the vending machine, What high schooler is going to say, nah, I'll skip it and stay in class? You don't even have to do homework the days you're taking the ASVAB. Your teachers aren't allowed to assign it. So basically, you get 2 to 3 days, depending on how long your school schedules it, where you go to school and fill in bubbles on a piece of paper. And that's it. And otherwise, you're just having fun. So yeah, kids take the test, and then the military checks those results and says, okay, these kids are all really smart, but not quite smart enough to get a scholarship. And so those are the kids they target. And they go to those kids and say, hey, we saw your scores. You're great. We will not only get you in the military, pay you a wage while you're in it, give you housing while you are in the military, pay for your college after you get out. By the way, they don't pay you for the full college anymore. They used to, but not anymore. They'd pay what they would have paid for college back when they started the GI Bill in the 60s. Which I did some looking once. My dad was saying, I don't know how you kids have to get all this debt to go to college. I worked 3 jobs while I was in college, and I paid off with no student debt whatsoever. Well, I happen to know the year my dad graduated from college. So I went and I knew what college he went to, too. I went and looked up what the cost of a single semester of classes was when my dad was in college. My dad went to college in the 1960s in a farm school, which it's actually the same college I went to. So that made things easy when I was figuring out how much the difference was between his college cost and mine. And for a single semester, he could be expected to pay $700 for every class for a single semester. For me, who went to that same college in the early 2000s, a single semester of courses was $14,000. So, okay, people made less at the time that my dad went into college. So I looked up what my dad would have roughly been making, assuming he made minimum wage, because he insisted he did. The amount he would have been making was more than enough to pay for that semester of college. And I know it was, because he did. And during that time, he also not only was in the military, which he was, but he also had enough money to buy a house outright, so that when he got shipped overseas to war, because he happened to serve in Vietnam, my mother, who was left in the U.S., could stay in that house with no need to pay any rent or mortgage, because he had been able to save up enough, and he did pay for his college, because while yes, the GI Bill was in place, the GI Bill was only for people who joined the military in a particular way at that time. My dad enlisted in a different way, so the GI Bill didn't pay for his college, which means that he earned enough to buy a house outright and pay for all of his college while working minimum wage at the time. Now, minimum wage has not kept up with inflation by any means. And college costs, along with medical costs, are some of the highest inflated things in the U.S. My college, which again, early 2000s, farm college, fairly small, good college, don't get me wrong, but $14,000 per semester. So that's $28,000 per year of college. And yeah, no. Even if you work 40 hours a week, you're not going to be able to afford that. Not and afford housing, food, medical care if you dare to get sick. My dad could manage to pay entirely for my sister's birth. Do you know how much it costs without insurance to have a baby in the U.S. right now? It's a lot. A lot. And that's if nothing goes wrong. Medical prices are ridiculous in the U.S. And housing costs are ridiculous in the U.S. And college costs are ridiculous in the U.S. And here we are, we being metaphorical, I guess, but here we are struggling just to get companies to agree to pay a wage that lets people only have one job instead of multiple. You're right, it is crazy. But the thing is, so let's follow the money, as people say. Okay, why does the U.S. want people in the military? Who does it benefit? Well, first, it's going to benefit the military contractors. The companies that make all of the tanks, the planes, the barracks, all the military uniforms. And those companies have contracts with the U.S. where the U.S. government is contractually obligated to only buy from that company. So there is no going for the lowest bidder. But the funny thing is, it is the lowest bidder. That's how they initially got the contract. But there's also no going for the highest quality, which is why we sometimes end up with things that we've been paying a lot of money for our military to have them for ages, and they have to be replaced every year because they're so low quality. They're so poorly manufactured. But okay, so the military contractors. how do they get that contract? Sure, they'll be the lowest bidder, but you would think that the government would also go, okay, but we also want quality. We're not going to pay just because you're the lowest bidder if what we get is going to break. Except that there are politicians who are on the board of directors for that company. So say, let's go with a company that I had to deal with a lot when I was at my old job, because my old job was was providing tech support for an aerospace engineering firm. And that aerospace engineering firm provided things like helping to write the plans for the Tomahawk missile guidance system, which I've seen because I had the security clearances and sometimes would have to remote into people's computers. And even though I would say, hey, I'm about to remote in, I need you to close or minimize anything that is potentially confidential. Yeah, they never listen to that. Anyway, so okay, Raytheon. Say you've got a politician who's on the board of directors of Raytheon, and Raytheon wants to get a new contract with the U.S., but they haven't been putting out the best quality lately. And so maybe the U.S. is actually looking at another corporation for once, not looking at Raytheon. Well, of course, if the U.S. doesn't buy from Raytheon, that's going to hurt the pocketbook of the person who is on the board of directors. So they reach out to their constituent, or not their constituents, they reach out to their buddies in the Senate or the district or the House of Representatives, and they say, hey, you're going to be voting on this big defense contract, aren't you? Yeah. Hey, I can hook you up with a job as a consultant if all you do is vote to use this particular corporation. I'm on the board of directors. I can tell them to hire you without any interview or anything. And think of all the money you'll get. So that person, of course, agrees to vote to select Raytheon as the provider. But there's more to it than that. There's also lobbyists. And those lobbyists do similarly. And there's, oh hey, this plant for Raytheon, sorry, I'm very bad at pronouncing the place, or the company. But this plant for Raytheon is in Clearwater, Florida. So, maybe I can get the senator from Florida to also vote to use Raytheon, because it means jobs in his district, which means that he's more likely to get reelected, because his constituents, his voters, will go, oh, he brought jobs, or he kept jobs here in our city or our state. So there's all these little factors that really lead to massive corruption when you follow them. And it even goes to, okay, I'm assuming, based on your having said the U.S. is crazy and you don't know how that stuff is legal, that you are from outside the U.S. So you might have seen on various social media things about the U.S. Cheese Reserve. This massive supply of cheese. By the way, I just finished. It is done. This massive vault, as it were, of cheese. Why on earth would a country need one? And you can't really say, oh, because it's for in case of wartime poverty, things like that. Because no, we're actually, there's a program in the U.S. called WIC. It's Women, Infants, Children. That's what it stands for. Okay. So we're going to switch that. Okay, now I can So, the WIC program, it provides food for women with young children or infants, and it's certain amounts of things. And it is, as a general rule, peanut butter, cheese, milk, formula if the baby is still young enough to be doing that, carrots, and cereal. So technically, everything you need for the most basic nutrition. Now, why would, if you're just trying to hit the building blocks of nutrition, why would you put cheese and milk on that same list? Well, there's a reason. Because the U.S. has an overabundance of dairy. Now, why is that? Well, because for a very long time, dairy farmers, particularly large dairies, this is not your small-scale mom and pop. This is the dairies that have just thousands of cows. But they have been specifically breeding those cows to have as high a milk output as possible. Not for the health of the cows. We are getting into it because it's true. But it's not what you think. It's not, oh, people are being convinced to drink dairy because the government wants to make them fat or wants to make them unhealthy, which is some of the things you'll see as part of the cowspiracy. It's not that. What it is each of those massive dairies has a board of directors. That board of directors only cares about one thing, and that is how much profit they get every year, every quarter, in fact. So they push for the breeding of cows that produce more and more milk, even if it's to the detriment of the cows, because they want more and more milk so that they can sell it. The problem is, selling that much milk, providing that much milk, actually reduces how much you can sell it for. Because now there's a surplus. And supply and demand means that if there's too much milk, therefore, you're not going to earn as much per gallon of milk sold. So, the board of directors then contacts lobbyists. Remember how we talked about lobbyists earlier when we were talking about the military? Those lobbyists now have to find a way to convince the government to make it so that the milk prices will stay a certain level. The government does this by, one, putting milk and cheese as the primary things on the WIC program. They also discouraged breastfeeding among mothers. And yes, the government was where that started. The swap from drinking breast milk to drinking formula started with the government. Because if women weren't breastfeeding, they would have to buy formula. The formula is made out of dairy solids. So, now we have all women and young infants and children getting lots of milk and cheese. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. It's a good source of nutrients. We've got women breastfeeding less, so they're making formula, which again uses up some of that excess milk. Milk prices stay high. But we're still producing more and more milk every year. And now, here's where things get into the actual conspiracy, okay? Now, you have small-time farmers who are producing better quality milk because they're treating I mean, the cattle in the dairy industry are actually treated really well, okay? I'm going to let you know that right now. Because if you don't treat those cattle well, they don't produce good milk. They don't produce as much milk. They produce less when they're stressed. There is more likely to be blood or other substances, stress hormones themselves, in the milk, and all of that milk has to be tested before it can be sold to humans for consumption. So, the dairy industry, it's not the cows. Well, the cows are suffering from poor breeding. And I don't mean the artificial insemination. That's actually healthier for the cows than letting a bull breed them. Because bulls will break a cow's back. They don't care. They just want to get their sex on. So, they're breeding these cows to produce more and more milk. But they're not breeding them to produce better quality milk. So small farmers who have cows that they, have maybe 5, 6, 10 cows, they're better bred. They're cows that produce a higher butterfat content. They're cows that are bred for the quality of the milk instead of the quantity. They're starting to sell to their local town. The people in town are going, hey, I can just go down to Farmer Joe's Dairy and buy a couple gallons of milk, and it's really good, and it's about the same price as what I'd get in the store, but it's better. Great. Big dairy, the corporate levels, don't like it. Cuts into their profits. So, one, they convince their lobbyists to talk to the government, and the government creates a law that you cannot sell raw milk. It has to be pasteurized. Great. Okay, of course, this is billed as it's to kill off pathogens so you don't have to worry about your consumers getting sick when they drink the milk. Sounds great on paper. The small dairies can't afford to buy the machines to pasteurize the milk. So they can no longer sell to the person down the street. Now, their only choice is to sell their milk to a big company that then can pasteurize it and put it out on the market. You buy a gallon of milk from the grocery store, say Highland, Borden, one of those. That milk literally comes from cows all across the U.S. You're not getting milk from just one dairy. You're not getting milk from just one farm. You're getting milk that has been shipped in to one mass central place, mixed together, and then bottled and sold. So that really good quality milk, great butterfat content, delicious taste, has now been mixed with the same milk that was already on the store shelves and didn't taste that good. And now there are small farmers who are getting around the rules where they were having to sell to these massive companies they collectively pool their money and buy a pasteurization machine. So multiple small farms can now pasteurize their milk and then sell it individually. Great. That's how you're getting more of these small farms showing up in your local farmers market, grocery stores. So now these lobbyists, because the dairy industry's not happy, their profits are getting cut again. Well, now they're like, okay, what can we do to increase our profits? So now they're trying to increase things like taxes on milk, but not on the consumer, okay? No, they're trying to increase it on the person selling the milk, because they want those small dairies to, again, no longer be able to sell individually. So they have to go back to selling their money to the big dairies, or selling their milk to the big dairies. So is there a dairy conspiracy? Is the government actually pushing humans to drink more milk? Or citizens to drink more milk, eat more cheese, things? Yes. But it's not for the reasons a lot of people think. It is literally because these large dairies, again, not the small dairies, not the individual farmers, these large dairies, they have a board of directors. The board of directors wants their profits to go up every single quarter. And that's not reasonable. Oh, I was sewing on a legging. It's a footy thing that goes, well, hold on. Let me switch cameras for just a second to the main camera. That's not the main camera. Oh, right. Okay. One moment. This is going to be awkward because I'm going to have to put it on and then I'm going to have to like hold my leg up so you can see it on. Because I didn't bother to set up because I wasn't thinking, because it is almost 3 in the morning for me. Okay. That is on correctly. Okay, turning the camera and... Nope, need to turn it more. There is foot and leg. It goes all the way up to the knee. And it is very warm. In fact, it is too warm because it is in the 40s tonight and going to be 70s tomorrow. But it'll be really nice when it gets cold here in Oklahoma. And I have another one that I'm going to sew, but not right now. But, yeah. So, it's made from a fleece blanket, by the way, that I cut up. Were you in the channel when I showed up? Yeah, you were. Oh, hey. Earlier today, I found a pillbug, woodlouse, choose your name. And I found it in my bathroom, and I was like, you should not be here. This is not a safe place for you. So I caught it and put it in a little jar and put some spinach leaves in there with it. And tomorrow, once it is in the 70s, it will be taken outside and released. But for right now, it is now hunched up on top of one of the spinach leaves and happily chowing down. So, very happy to see he's finally decided, he or she, whichever, I don't know, has finally decided to emerge from their hidey hole under the spinach. That said, I went ahead and I finished that one legging. I've still got another one to go, but I don't feel like starting on it tonight. Oh no, yeah, that does happen. I actually keep these, this little jar specifically for catching bugs so I can take them outside. I've caught many a spider in it and taken them outside. But that said, I went ahead, I finished my legging for tonight. I'll do the other one later, but I think I'm going to end the stream. Hope that this was educational for you. If not, just listening to this weird Oklahoman rant. It was very nice talking to you. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your week. Thank you so much for joining the stream. And remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And I will be back either Wednesday night or sometime on Thursday for my weekly gaming stream. But you have a great week.